Welcome. We're out in Breckenridge this afternoon, and our guest is Jenny Beecroft, and she's here because she said yes to the good news now and beginning to talk about what good news is in her life. So, Jenny, thank you for being with us. And I'd like to begin today with talking about your horoscope because I did find a site that really is called the Good News Network. Let me read your horoscope for this week. In his masterpiece, the Mona Lisa, Leonardo da Vinci applied 30 layers of paint that were no thicker than a single human hair. Can you imagine the patience and concentration that required? I'm going to propose that you be inspired by his approach as you carry out your big projects in the coming year. Now, this is the astrologer talking, not Pastor Carol, okay? I think you will have the potential to create at least one labor of love that's monumentally subtle and soulful. So, is there such a project that you've put off that you would like to have done, that you would like to do in the upcoming year that will take patience and some soulful thought?
Well, I started doing watercolor a couple years ago, and I absolutely love it. I spend many hours doing it during the COVID, being shut in. And I have a project. I've been wanting to work on something to give to my children. And it's kind of interesting when you were talking about the layers of Da Vinci, the many, many thin layers, because one of the things I recently learned in watercolor is called glazing, where we keep doing one thin layer of watercolor over another to get the right depth and colors that we want. And this has been something I've always wanted to do, watercolor.
Wow.
So I can spend hours painting, listening to music, and it's just, to me, it's just very serene and peaceful for me to do it.
Soulful.
Soulful.
So I think that he's on the right track with his horoscope for this week.
I think so.
As you go forward in doing this. Well, that's really exciting, and I know that the people at Lamb of God have just learned something about you that they too did not know.
I just felt that Lamb of God was home. I was home. It was a church that offered so much. And, you know, I always felt in the first half of my life, I said I was religious. And then I finally decided, you know what? I'm become spiritual. And I learned all this spirituality from Lamb of God in so many ways to connect with groups and learning and searching and all the time. It's just, there's so much offered there. So I feel like I'm more spiritual now and I'm not just a religious
person. So if you could define spiritual for me, because a lot of people at Lamb of God speak those words. And I don't know that other people who might be watching this would understand that. And I know that Sue Bachman always refers to people of Lamb of God as being Lamb of Goddies, because there's something about being part of Lamb of God.
Mm-hmm.
But touching on the spiritual, I think, is real important, especially during this time.
Oh, I think so too. You know, I think it's just finding peacefulness. You know, I don't know, I'm not even sure how I can explain it myself, but I guess it's just being peaceful.
Mm-hmm. And that's important, especially in a church. And I know that one of the big questions that I'm asking people, especially as we begin this new season here, has to do with how you've experienced the spirituality, and if during this past year there was a time of good news that you would like to share with the community.
I guess I feel that people have reached out to each other much more. Our lives have slowed down. Mm-hmm. You know, we're not running out here and there. And people, I think, have reconnected with old friends that we haven't talked to for years, because people call up and say, how are you doing? Mm-hmm. You know, how are you handling this? I think it's good news that people have picked up relationships that, sometimes we say, oh, I miss that person, but we don't take the time to call them
Right.
up and say, how are you doing?
Right.
Is, and I guess that's just one thing that I think is good news in this. I think people are finding support that way too.
Within the church body itself refers to the good news of Jesus Christ.
Sure.
That's where we're going with this, and how Jesus has been a part of your life and the life of the people at Lamb of God. So my final question to you today is, what are your hopes and dreams for Lamb of God going into the future?
I hope we can find someone to fill your shoes. Well, our church has gone in a certain direction. I mean, from Walter and Becky to you, we have, I think, formed this certain type of, I don't know how to even explain it. I'm not good at explaining myself. Searchers. I guess the group tomorrow is a good name. Are searchers, and I hope we can stay on that path. And I know a lot of it depends on the pastor. I know the people can keep saying this is what we want, and we want to keep going this way.
Well, except that I can say that the people of Lamb of God, you have it within you. It's never the pastor.
Well,
Should never be the
no,
pastor.
it is, but it is the people. You're right.
Right,
It is the
right.
people. But most people need a leader. We need somebody.
Right.
But Jesus is a leader. We need a
Right.
leader to
Yes.
put us on the right path.
Right. And I think that whoever comes, well, they'll no doubt fall in love with you just the way I did, and that's the team that makes for a community moving forward. You are unique, and a lot of churches say that they are unique, and don't tell anybody except the whole world, but they're not that unique. But Lamb of God is unique.
I think it is
it
unique.
is.
I do. I mean, just from other churches that I have belonged to for a short while as we're searching, I think it's very unique.
Right.
And we are out there proclaiming that all the time.
Right.
This church is unique. And
Right.
you would love it here. You would love this family that we have.
Right. And you do put your feet to where your words are because you are mission minded. And it's incredible what happens at Lamb of God, even during this COVID time, the amount of mission and ministry that has been done and continues being done. So that, I think, goes to the word that you used when you talked about it being spiritual. That's
Community outreach is,
Yeah.
is wonderful. I mean, we know that.
Right.
It's great.
Right,
Community
right.
outreach.
So, well, thank you. I know that this was a little challenging, but I think we did a good job. And I just want to thank you for being a part of this gathering of the Good News Now. And this is Pastor Carol Gates from Breckenridge in Fort Myers, Florida, with the Good News Now.